Coming at you with ABCs to Wealth. I want to touch base with you on the topic of disruptive technology. What is a disruptive technology? A disruptive technology is an innovative product that is created, which when created it causes a new market or a system of value to disrupt an already existing market or value system. And that disruption eventually dislocates the established market-leading corporations, products, or groups. We'll take a look at a couple things here and see what disruptive technology looks like. Well, as you can see here, we have a Ford Model T. That at one time was a disruption to the automotive market because for the first 30 years of the automotive market, the automobile was basically only for the elite, only for those who had money. It was very expensive and it was very costly to create, so only the upper echelon could afford to buy one of these horseless carriages, as they called them. But with the innovation of the Model T, which was at that point mass produced on an assembly line which had never been seen before, Mr. Ford was able to bring down the cost significantly to the point where the average Joe would be able to afford a vehicle like this. And therefore that disruptive technology changed the whole industry. Now going forward in the automobile industry, you also have this here, which is an electric car, which is of course newer to us and a part of the disruptive technology that we're discussing here. So the auto industry as we know it has always been gas propelled and or diesel. And now we have electric vehicles that have come into the picture and have disrupted the auto industry once again. Then when you think about disruptive technology, you have computers. Computers also were a disruptive technology because prior to the computer, there was nothing for you to be able to do computations and to be able to do work in the form that it was given to us there. You had to go and you had to calculate things, you had to gain materials, and you had to amass the materials that you needed to make whatever decision you were going to make. And then the computer comes on the scene, and all of a sudden the computer disrupts everything that's going on about data and about information and about the ability for mankind to be able to start to gather together all the information that was available in the world. So this was a disruptive technology. And as we went on, another thing that disrupted the technology of computers from the mainframe that we just looked at was the desktop. You have the desktop, which created another disruption in the technology. So instead of having computers that took up whole rooms and designated areas in factories and in office buildings, you now had the ability to be able to put a computer with more power than those old mainframes on your desktop. And then of course along came the laptop, another form of disruptive technology that was another innovation that caused the industry to swell with upheaval for the change that had come along. And then we go on to another disruptive technology, which was the cell phone. And the cell phone, as you can see here, this was a cell phone. It was an innovative product back in the 80s, for that, this one being a Motorola one. But prior to the automobile phone or the cellular phone, as this is, all you had was telephones in your home that were hardwired, landlines, and or you had telephone booths that were on every corner. And then with the introduction of the cellular phone, you started to see people start to make that change over. And then of course with cellular phone, the change on it, you see here all the different versions and levels and the different modifications and the different new levels of the technology that was available, and how cell phones went from being monster things that you had to carry in a bag and you had to hook up to a power source, to the point where you can actually take a cell phone now, stick it on a belt loop, a belt carrier, and you can walk around with all the power that a computer has nowadays, and the internet is at your touch, at your fingertips with a cell phone now, where we never used to have that. So there's another disruptive technology. And the last disruptive technology I want to touch base with you on is the disruptive technology of economics, and or of banking, and or of money and monetization. And here we see a picture of an old Western style bank, which would be about 140, 50 years ago, that you would find. And those banks have since passed away and gone by the way of other technologies that have had the new technologies, the disruptive technologies come along and upend them. Now, the banking industry has been around for quite a while, and banks have always been one of those things that have been a part of our life. But there's a new disruptive technology that has come about in the last 10, 11 years, which is called cryptocurrency, which at this point right now has not gained mass adoption, but is on the way to mass adoption. If you look at what's going on in the markets, and if you look at what is going on in the world with countries, with world banks, with organizations, with financial institutions, with cross-border payments and things of that nature, with countries that have never had the ability for their citizens to be able to get in touch with the fiat currency of their country, and even if they could get to it, they had no protection to make sure that their money would be safe. Now, going from the old antiquated technology of banks to what we call cryptocurrency, or as many people know as Bitcoin. Bitcoin is only the one who was the first mover, so they've got the advantage of being first movers, having gone and broken through that wall. But in the 10 years or so that Bitcoin, or cryptocurrency, or the blockchain technology as it is known, has been around, it is improved. There have been more gateways added. There have been more financial institutions starting to come on board. There have been more acceptance of it, and we're getting ready to see the dawn of this disruptive technology take its foothold in the cultures of the world, in the countries of the world, and in the financial institutions around the world. This is not just a local thing or a national thing. This is a global thing. So this disruptive technology is actually going to be a larger disruption to the antiquated system of the way we move money around now. One of the ways that it's going to improve is by the fact that there are companies out there in the cryptocurrency industry that have a great use to the monetary and to the financial institutions throughout the world, where they will be able to take payments across borders, and payments from one financial institution to another, and they will be able to take those payments, instead of waiting 7 to 14 days like we do now, and sometimes even longer, and not really knowing where your money's at in that process. Only when the money finally hits the bank on the other side do you get a notification that the money has made it safely. The average is 10 to 14 days for a transaction to go across borders or internationally, and there are companies out there now that are working on and have technology in place to work with these financial institutions, the banks, and the cross-border companies such as Western Union and places like that, where they have actually already proven that they can send a transaction in 3 to 6 seconds, and it can be there and verified, and instead of costing $20, it costs the customer $2. So that's significant, and those are some of the things that are in the works right now, that are in place, that are starting to be implemented into the financial institutions and into the cross-border payment companies, and they're seeing great success with it and great savings with it. Therefore, that disruptive technology is about ready to take this world by storm. So I would suggest to you check this out as a new disruptive technology and see what it's all about. The cryptocurrency, the blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, all those companies there, Cardano, all the ones, just go down a list of cryptocurrencies, look at the top 25, 30, 50 of them, and see what you find there, and see what they have to offer in the market, and see what kind of disruptive technology is coming your way. If you want to know more about the disruptive technologies that I'm speaking about, then check the link out below and get in touch with me, and we can have a conversation. Take care. Talk to you soon.